Um,
Hello. Welcome, everyone. We're back. I'm so glad to see everyone here. Thank you for coming. We are at Half Liter BBQ. I'm going to eat some barbecue for tonight at home. I'm morning in. But right now, I'm just sipping on some water. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Celestine Bloomfield. I'm your hostess tonight. Welcome to the Indy Story Slam, produced by Storytelling Arts of Indiana and Freetown. And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Maestro Organizing, and our media sponsor, WFYI. Listen, the theme tonight is near and dear to my heart. No. Wait, I think it down. Hello? Come on. Juice. I really don't use this microphone. But some of you might. Well, while we're waiting on my sound connection, I want you to know that on March 3rd, yours truly will be at Indiana Landmark Center. I will be telling a story about the Bottle Works Hotel, the most recent recipient of the Cook Cup Award for Outstanding Restoration. So if you're not doing nothing on a Sunday afternoon, we still time for you to go to dinner. We might have a few hors d'oeuvres, snacks, cakes, chocolate, who knows? That brings us to tonight's theme. Chocolate. I have never met anybody who didn't like chocolate. But there are some people out there who don't like chocolate. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with them? I have a story called How Brew Raccoon Outsmarted the Frog. There's a short of this. We're going to put it on the stand. We're not going to move. And I want you to know that some folks didn't like chocolate. But Brian Raccoon, him and his folks like frogs. They got frogs. Fried frogs, sauteed frogs, turkey seed frogs. I'm not telling you that story tonight because it's going to take too much time. But talk to me later and I'll talk to you about how folks like to eat different things. Now, to me, a day without chocolate is like a day without sunshine. And it'll be all day long. I'm trying not to eat no chocolate. And I need to get my fix. Let me tell you, I had in my bedroom some chocolates that were sent to me 2 Christmases ago by a friend. I know the belief that chocolate never goes bad, but I will be wrong. I want you to know that she sent me those chocolates because as well as like chocolate, I also enjoy coffee. I don't know. Yes. Now, cognac with orange juice is my best drink. If I must drink wine, I will. And tequila is near and dear to my heart, but somehow my friend from college found dark chocolate bottles filled with cognac and sent some to me. They weren't even bigger than my favorite. And I don't like dark chocolate particularly. But it's time to break news. You will heard that before. And you will pop in those suckers in your mouth. And that's what I do. just last night. So tonight, our topic is chocolate. Now, I know what's going to happen. Now, you say, oh, no, no, no. Okay, but I know what's true. As soon as you hear someone else's story, you're going to think about the time it happened to you. And you're going to want to come up on the stage for the bully. And you're going to want to tell one of your stories. So we will let you do it. But right now, I'm reaching into this lime green lime and chocolate. I'm going to put those together. Orange and chocolate maybe. Right? Strawberry covered chocolate. I mean, chocolate covered strawberries. You know, I don't advise you calling those fancy places and spending an arm and a leg for them. When you can make them at home, so much you. Uh-oh. Look what I see. You know, people always fold up their positions as little as they can get. And somehow, I don't have feelings to it. I went in here and crashed out this. I hope it is for good. Because I just pulled the name of Tracy Williams. And she's going to talk to her.
Good everyone. This is my story about fun. Everybody in my family knows that I love fun. I don't like it soft. I like it hard. I put it in the refrigerator, even though they say you shouldn't put it in the refrigerator. I put it in the refrigerator and I cut it. When we go to the state fair every year, I'm take off for the pavilion. Because we have Thomas Fudge in there. I think it's the South Bend Candy Company or something or other that has fudge. Oh, I just love fudge. Now, you're thinking because I love fudge so much that I love chocolate fudge. I love maple walnut fudge. Love it. Bought all the ingredients for Christmas, and I was gonna make my fudge this time. All the ingredients are still in my house. I have not accomplished that mission yet, but everything is there for me to make the maple walnut fudge. The recipe, the walnut, the maple syrup, everything that you need. Now I'm gonna tell you why I steered away from chocolate fudge. Now, when I was about 3 years old, 3 or 4 maybe. And this was made only years ago. Okay? And I remember this vividly. My Aunt Dottie had come over, and she always called us baby and sugar and honey, and I just loved it. She was making chocolate fudge. And I was next to her by the stove, and she was melting that chocolate and getting it ready for us to eat. I was so excited about this chocolate fudge. Oh my goodness. Well, took the pot from the stove and she poured it into a big bowl. Set that bowl on the table. And me being so excited about getting to this fudge, climbed my little self up, got up on the table, took my little hand, and just as I about to stick it in that bowl of hot, boiling chocolate fudge to be, she turns around and it's like slow motion. No, baby, it's not ready yet. But I had already stuffed my little hand inside of that hot chocolate, swallowed my hand to pieces. Oh my goodness. She's like, oh my baby, and she got my hand out of there. And oh, it was really a bad burn on my hand. I was so excited about that chocolate fudge. But now, I got chocolate fudge. Stick to the maple walnut fudge, and that's my favorite. I'll eat chocolate, other things every now and again, but not chocolate.
Ooh, that's terrible. You know, it takes more than that to turn me against some chocolate. You know how you look at the chocolate that your mother's making, and she maybe used a can of cocoa before she added the sugar, and she turns her back, and you think you're gonna sneak your hand in and get you a taste, and she copied, and she just stood there and waited. And you stick your hand in that cocoa, it is not the same. I learned how to wait for the sugar. So I still eat chocolate fudge. It's not my favorite. Matter of fact, the chocolate fudge I had in my refrigerator since Christmas. I will bring it on down. Okay. I'm sorry I forgot about it tonight. Well, now look, I know that makes you think of another story. You know, on March 16th, at the Eugene and Maryland Blake Indiana History Center, Charlotte Blake Alston will tell the story. Six Triple Six. Now, you may not have heard, but this is the story of the only African American women's battalion to serve in Europe during World War II. I am so excited. I cannot wait to hear her tell it. She is an excellent storyteller. She's been here before. And I want you to know, I hope to see you there because I'm going to be in the audience. But until that time, the next person to espouse on shopping, it's going to be good. I can just read the name. Mark is an attorney. Hey, Mark.
My name is Mark Bird, but they call me Mr. Yeah, it's well known in my family. I'm chocolate. And one time, my wife took our friend to propose. I went down one. She took the girl. Well, my wife always goes that. He said, "Oh, we lost her." Well, a 4-year-old. She came along. She said, "Oh, oh, we want this chocolate monster. We need to go to the hand aisle. Find it. I just love smoky good rolls across my heart is full. But I also like chocolate because chocolate can be fun. Now it took me a while. I made a few mistakes along the way. And here's the thing. When my kids were little, they'd come home from trick or treat with these candy. So that's stupid. Right? So when they were all in bed, I'd go through and sort put them in dispose of. Right. And that worked well for a few years until always stopped. Why? One morning I woke up to 3 unspeakable. Never made that mistake. But one time we were living in Kingston, Maine, and our neighbors were Pop's streets. And Pop and Miss Bree, the little piece of land was poker, and they invited me over to help them as we said Cocoa Park. My job was to fill that poker. But it passed. Once that was done, Rita took out chocolate
rolled it into little balls, and then made balls and recipe for old-fashioned tomato chocolate cake. With home, bring it to the pot, and let it cook. And that pot began to bubble. It filled our kitchen. Cinnamon, chocolatey aroma. Bottom of my face. Everyone. At the U.S. consulate, there were about 200 employees, and most of them were Chinese nationals. Now, when I first started showing up to fix their computers, they'd be cross, coach nothing. They were happy because computers weren't working, and there was lots to do before they went to bed. Well, I understood that, but I didn't like it. So I had this 72% chocolate, came in square, and low fat, and they're pretty brown, gold form. I began to eat that square of chocolate on the keyboard by the computer that I just repaired. But it's new. You know, when I showed up, I was fine. And we started talking. We started talking about chocolate. And they're pretty good. Moving on to kids, our hopes and dreams. And I still want many friends I made. You know, before I leave, I want to tell you something. One day, the senior most Chinese employee came up to me and said, "Mark, please decide how to live." Well, nicknames were important to that community, so I was president, and that's how I became known as Chocolate. But before I leave, I've asked you to think about that metaphor, the way you think about food and sugar help the best. Because a little bit of kindness when it comes to it, it never fits. Microphone now. Bless you. I know I don't need a microphone. I just sort of let my teacher voice kick in, but I want to make sure everybody can hear. That was hilarious. Mr. Chuck. I sort of had dreams of male strippers covered in purple. No. Okay, was I the only one thinking that? All right. Bring it back up. Now, Miss Ophelia's sitting right here. She has a phone. She'll try to get your attention and let you know when you reach 4 minutes. So we won't kick you off the stage because we want to hear what happened. But you will be deducted some points for going over 5 minutes. Remember, it's 5 minutes long, told in the first person, and it's supposed to be true. Now, I don't know how they will find out if you added a little yeast to the story, but I'm telling you, yeast and chocolate, unless it's in a cake, just really don't mix. But let's listen to our next telephone. We're going to switch chords. We're going to give you some more information about what's happening. March 21st at that fabulous Indiana Landmark Center at 6 p.m. Conversations in Indiana, African American History and Culture. And the topic is Recovering the History of Norwood. I don't think I know where Norwood is. I learn something new every time. So I hope to see you there, March 21st. And in case you're wondering when our next plan will be, it'll be March 20th at 7 p.m. at the Fountain Square Brew Company at 1301 Barth Avenue. And the theme is Splash. Ooh, Splash. Splash. I will tell you all about my foray into being a gym assistant in high school. Oh, yeah, We're tracking everything. Come on now. And back in those days, you couldn't graduate high school unless you could swim.
Mm.
All right, are we ready? Great. Now, what you also want to know, in case you have not been there yet, it's after Valentine's. And nobody in their right mind buys Valentine's candy before Valentine's Day. You wait until the Wednesday after, and you go in and bring alcohol. And you can put chocolate in the fruit. I don't think they recommend that, but you can keep it. I know people put Halloween candy in the freezer, pass it out the next year. Not me, man. But only buy the candy that I want to eat. So when nobody comes to my door, that's what I do to it. I eat it. But our next step, whoa, I'm scared. It's going to tell us about chocolate. His name is Chap Black. Come on.
One of the more unusual phone calls I took working for the federal court in Detroit was the one where I answered and said my usual thing, and there was no voice on the other end at all. Just which some people here may not recognize, and others may say, oh yeah, that's a fax machine, when they put in your regular voice number by mistake. And I handled that cleverly, I thought, by flashing the hook on my phone and putting in the extension of our fax machine down the hall. And I could hear it ring and connect. And mere moments later, out rolled a purchase order for 750 pounds of chocolate chips. And the order was from the North Farm Cooperative of Madison, Wisconsin, no small-time operation, and it was meant for the Blummer Chocolate Company of Chicago, which I had not heard of, but which was well on its way to processing one of every 20 cacao beans in the world. So it was the kind of place you would fax an order to if you needed 750 pounds of chocolate chips. And their fax number and my office number just differed by the Chicago 312 or Detroit 313 area code. And with a sudden rush of horror, I could see what I had done. By transferring that call so cleverly, I thought, so the fax went through, I had let someone in Madison thinking all was well in the world and chocolate would be forthcoming. And now it was all on me to make that right before this random mix-up could spiral into the 1992 Wisconsin chocolate chip famine. Well, I did have the cooperative's fax number and Blummer's fax number and all of the really imposing official U.S. federal court stationery I could possibly want. And so I grabbed a sheet and addressed the purchaser, Dear Mr. Marcus, the United States District Court has intercepted your purchase order, number 23338, for 750 pounds of chocolate chips from the Blummer Chocolate Company. Their fax number and my office number differ in the area code. I've checked our cases, and there seem to be no chocolate chips involved in pending forfeiture actions before this court. Therefore, I have forwarded your order to the Blummer Chocolate Company, and am confident they will be better prepared to meet your chocolate needs. If you are not satisfied with this action, you may, of course, fax your next chocolate chip order to the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati. very truly yours, etc., etc. And I served this notice by fax on both parties with the original order, and I never heard a peep from either of them. But there was no news that reached my ear that year of any chocolate-related unrest in Mad City, or any more than usual, and so I like to think that means things worked out. And for a few days or a week, I held on to a hope of maybe hearing some question about that from the crew in Cincinnati, but disappointingly, that never happened. So I guess the guys at North Farm either were just too darn serious to take it any further, or they were unsure about their chances on appeal.
All right. We would not like to be responsible for a chocolate famine in that state. Now, wherever I go, or if you tell me you're going there, I will say, bring me back some chocolate. Now, my niece was kind enough to go to Europe for Christmas, and she brought me chocolate, which I would like to say to you, I just, rationed out. But what you really want to do is just sit there and eat every last bite. But I did let it last a week. Yes, there were 2 boxes. And I enjoyed every bite. I wish I could say I shared some with other people, but no, that is not true. And I do know some of the best chocolate places in the state. Now, people like C's, okay? I remember going to California and going to C's, and I said, because my place is Donaldson's Chocolate up in Lebanon, all right? I would stop by Donaldson's. I'm from Gary, Indiana. So when I would go visit my daddy and mom, I would stop at Donaldson's if it was open. And I always bought my favorite double, the milk chocolate almond. That's what I wrote. That was my heart. And you get all the creams and truffles and other stuff. Like I went there one time and they were making peanut butter. He gave me a sample of the peanut butter. That was so good. So I always get at least a pound of chocolate covered almonds, and I snack on them on the highway. And then I give them to my daddy like I was bringing him a present. Until finally he said to me one time, "What is it? Every time you bring me these, they're almost gone." So I started getting smart. I'd buy him a box and me a box, and he wouldn't know. Well, when my father died in December of 1984, I just stopped going to Donaldson's. It just wasn't the same, which meant I wasn't getting my chocolate covered almonds either. And when I finally went back, maybe 10 years later, they looked at me and said, "Where have you been?" It's a shame, but they know you at the corner bar, that's a local chocolate store. That's the truth.
Hey.
Our next teller, oh, this is going to be good, is Lindsay Alton. Hey, Lindsay.
Good morning. Hi, this is my first time, I have traveled extensively and actually lived abroad for 7.5 years. I lived in Guangzhou, sir. So when you said that, I was like, what? We should talk. Many of my stories then are going to take place in more exotic locales, Thailand or India or Richmond, Virginia. I told good one about that one. But this one takes place in Mexico, actually. And I have, as I said, been all over the world and been to the other side of the world. And when I came back, I had never actually been to Canada or Mexico. So I was like, well, I should probably remedy this. It's kind of embarrassing. So I did go to Canada, and then the following year, 2020, as we all know, is a significant year. Remember, that's when this takes place. It's important. I went to Mexico for the first time in February. Yeah, it was right. Okay, so I go to Mexico, and I am a hostel traveler. And my hostel, my beautiful hostel, was on the rooftop, middle of the city. My room was on the rooftop, actually, and that's where we all met in the morning to have breakfast. Everybody was staying. I love hostel travel because I am a solo traveler, and I meet amazing and interesting people. And again, so many stories, but that's not what I'm telling right now. So I found out on that trip that I'm actually the old salt of the traveler circuit, which was kind of bracing at first, and then a role that I just accepted with open arms because a lot of the people I was meeting, they'd done like a Mexico circuit. I guess there is a Mexico circuit. I'm not aware of it. And when I started talking about Asia, everybody got quiet. Like, oh, okay. So that was kind of cool, but that is also not the point of this story. One of the things that I think anyone who's traveled understands is that food is one of the most important things that you must do, you must have, you must try everything when you travel, especially internationally. Unfortunately, by the time I went to Mexico, I had learned this. It actually took me a couple of trips to figure this out. It's a bit slow to catch on, but I did finally figure it out. So in Mexico, one of the things I knew I needed to try, because I'd read about it, is chocolate de agua, which is basically, it's like for some people, it's what they drink instead of coffee. It's like a hot chocolate, but it's not like what we think of as hot chocolate. It's not so milky, at least not what I had. Very, very good, but a little bit different. So I knew I had to try it. And I found a cafe a couple blocks from where I was staying. And so I was very proud of myself because normally when I travel, I will spend half the day not doing anything. And then I'm like, oh God, I'm in Mexico City. I should do something, okay? So I got up in the morning and I marched down to the historic city center, which is where this place was. And I'm very proud of myself. Took a picture of the walk down, beautiful avenue that I went down, and the sun was shining at just the right angle, nice sun rays. And so I get down there, and the place is bustling. It is a very popular, very busy, good. You can tell this place is good, place. So I get in there, and I am seated on the second floor at a laughably huge table. Actually, it was basically a family-sized table, and I was all by myself at this huge table, right at the intersection of everything that was happening on that floor. So there was a big space right in front of my table, and there was stairs here, there was a kitchen here, I think there was a bathroom, maybe in that direction, and then there was seating here, and there was seating here. So I'm sitting at this table, and people are just flying by, going everywhere they're going. It's super busy. That is also an important detail. So I have huevos, not huevos rancheros. I cannot remember now what I ate, but I ate the whole thing. It must have been great. And then I had my chocolate de agua. I think I finished everything. I cannot say this for sure, but I have a unique travel tradition that is actually quite a bit of a problem, I guess, but I've laughed my way through it. That's why I'm telling the story now. I have a tendency to pass out when I get a little bit overwhelmed with things. And being in a foreign country by oneself, speaking Spanish, which is not my native language, is a bit overwhelming. So I'm sitting at this table, I've eaten everything, and I'm just kind of sitting, and all of a sudden, I can feel when it's coming on, but I can never stop it before it comes on. I can feel it coming on. And I'm just sitting at this table like, oh my God, because I know I'm about to not only black out, but probably projectile vomit, because unfortunately I have to do that too. That comes with it. And so I'm sitting at this table staring, thinking the bathroom is somewhere over there, wondering if I can make it in time, because that way I get to pass out of the bathroom and be done with the whole thing. No. I stood up, made it 2 steps, completely passed out, and projectile vomited right in the middle of the floor where everybody was going back and forth, doing all their things. Right there. I made a hell of a scene. And I came to about 30 seconds later. It's not usually something, I don't usually stay out that long. But there were 2 Mexican-American doctors that saw the whole thing happen. So I woke up to English, which was great. So thank you, sirs. The EMTs eventually showed up. Sorry, I'm going to rush my way to the end here. The EMTs eventually showed up and spoke no English. And somehow I managed to brilliantly communicate to them in Spanish And this was normal for me. This happens all the time. I do it everywhere. And they were fine with that, probably because they didn't want to deal with the white girl passed out in the middle of this restaurant. Nobody knows how to talk to her about it. And so then the police showed up. So I had everybody. I was expecting the army at this point. I'm like, all right, cool. And the police were fantastic. Any ideas that I had in my head about corrupt police in Mexico, because I've heard the stories, I think everyone had, completely went away that day, because here I was, completely vulnerable, completely alone. And these beautiful men, I don't know why it took them so long to find my hostel. I do not know what the problem was. They lived there. I did not. But I swear to God, it was like 2 hours. We drove around trying to find my hostel. And I'm like, I thought I was pretty clear, guys. But they were perfect gentlemen. And I ended up getting there eventually, perfectly safely. So that is my Chocolate de Agua story. Miraculously, I still like it a lot. I kind of think it could have ruined the whole thing, but I still like Mexican food, and I still like chocolate de Agua. Thank you.
And you still do this?
Yeah.
Okay, watch your order. Okay, bless your heart. I had forgotten all about the chocolate by the end of the story. That was wonderful. Listen, I have an announcement. Before you get ready to, I know the night will end eventually, unless they have chocolate back there. I have to check the menu. But those people who did order, you don't have to leave your tables. They will come to your table for you to cash out. But I know, looking out in this audience, there is another chocolate story out here somewhere. Not like the time I first made my German chocolate cake. And my mother cooked. And she was a baker. And her idea of me helping her cook in the kitchen was cleaning up behind her, chopping the celery, the onion, the green pepper. So I wanted a cake. And I could read the directions on the outside of the Domino's sugar bag. And I made a cake. 3 layers. That's how we make cakes in our house. And my mother was gone, and I watched that cake bake in the oven going, in the middle of one of the layers. But I frosted that cake, and then I made my brothers eat it. And we ate the whole thing before my mother came back home. And of course, my youngest brother, Keith, he could never keep a secret. But she said, was it good? I said, mm-hmm. And from then on, I got to make all the cakes. Chocolate, coconut, pound, whatever you wanted. But right now, Noel Bewley's gonna come on up here and tell us the story.
Can you hear me? Just a little, I need to hold this in.
There you go.
All right. In 1952, my mother and father decided to build a grocery store. It was out in the middle of nowhere in southern Kentucky. And they put a gas pump on the outside. Step up there, you go in the front door, and on the right-hand side was a long glass counter, or whatever you want to call it. You could look in and see all the chocolate, all the other, whatever candies they had. Of course, I was only 2.5. My dad decided to go to Puerto Rico because the Army wanted it. And so my mother was running the gas station and country store and 2 little kids. So the first thing that happened, the first day she went out to pump gas, she came back in, and I was sitting inside the candy store. She looked right through the glass and see me sitting there. And she yanked me out and she said, I just wanted to smell it. And then I started liking chocolate. And my grandparents were a mile away down the gravel road, and Granny was always getting boxes of chocolate from her 6 sons. And I learned that a box of chocolate, you don't have to worry about it being like life, because all you do is pick up the piece, turn it upside down, poke your finger into it, and see what comes out. If it's a maraschino cherry, you quickly stick it back and go for another one. And so my cousins and I did that forever. And then we move along for about 40 years of eating chocolate of every single kind you can imagine. If you could holler out the name of a piece of chocolate, I have been chocolate. If you could name a cake that's chocolate, I have eaten half of it. Anything you could name that was chocolate, I ate. And then something turned. We invited a couple over for euchre, and I made a big pot of coffee, bought 2 pounds, one of M&Ms, one of M&M peanuts. And my friend and I played euchre for 2 hours, ate almost every single one. We went to bed, they went home for dinner, went to bed. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, boom, I woke up, my eyes staring, and my heart going as fast as it could go. And I could not make it slow down, so I told my wife, call the ambulance, I'm having a heart attack. So she did. And we went to the hospital at St. Vincent's. They pulled me in the emergency room. They started giving me some tests. They said, what have you been doing lately, or what have you done lately? And I had to say, well, I drank 4 cups of coffee and ate a half a pound of M&Ms. And they said, well, you're not having a heart attack. You have enough thrombus. And so after they did that, they sent me home. I got home about lunchtime. And at lunchtime, I called my father, who was 75 at the time, and I said, this is what happened. And he said, you should have called me. He goes, that happened to me 3 months ago in Western Pennsylvania. They had to take me to the hospital. And so it runs in the family. My fault. But I had changed my life with chocolate a little bit. I now only get M&M peanuts in $50 bag. I only drink coffee before lunchtime. And problem is, get a Russell Silver sampler thing, you can't trust me. I'm still gonna pull it out, turn it over, poke it, and see if it's American material. And then I'll put it back. Thank you very much.
That was a good. No, and I'm so glad you told the doctor the truth. You know, so often we go to the doctor and we try to lie to them. And they already know when they ask you the question. That was good. But I'm here to tell you, I will not pick it at my house because I will eat it. Okay? Like, I love potato chips almost as much as I love chocolate. There's not a single potato chip in my house because I consider that another food group. Chocolate and potato chips. All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I hope y'all could hear over my laughing so loud. Oh, I know we're in for a good story now. Well, all of them have been good because I've just been cracking up. Well, right now, our next teller is Jennifer, please. Jennifer.
So I have always given up chocolate for Lent. But there was one year when I was in my 20s that I was feeling very sacrificial. And so I decided to give up all sweets because I figured if Jesus can go 40 days in the desert without food or water, I could go that long without sugar. And it was a very long Lent, but I did it. And by the end, I felt very holy. And so much discipline. And it was borderline heroic. But just like Jesus at the end of 40 days, by the time Easter Sunday came, I was hungry. And I was home from grad school at my parents' house. And that morning I woke up and the first thing I did was make a beeline for the Easter basket that my mom still put together for me, still does. And I sat down and started eating. Peeps, jelly beans, Cadbury eggs, robin's eggs, hollow bunny that looks like it's not going to be hollow. So much chocolate. I ate the entire thing in one sitting. But I wasn't done because then we had breakfast. And my parents had bought this delicacy from Illinois Street Emporium called a sausage strudel, and it was perfectly made. And as a rule at that time, I wasn't a big fan of meat and certainly not sausage. And yet I could not get enough of this sausage strudel. And my parents and siblings watched horrified and amused as I went back for second, third, fourth. I finally had to stop eating to go to church. And it hit me during one of the many Easter Alleluias. Oh no. And by the time I got back to my parents, I was pale, sweating, and I needed to be horizontal. And my 5 younger siblings, we were all of us, but they were there too. And they thought it was hilarious, which didn't help me feel better. So I climbed back into my childhood bed. And for the first time in my life, threw up, not from illness, but simply from overeating. And also for the first time in my life, I realized why gluttony is one of the deadly sins because I felt like I was going to die. And then finally, less sleep came. I woke up hours later to hear my extended family downstairs singing, "We're Here Because We're Here," which is sung to the tune of Old Lang Syne. It's a really bizarre family tradition. It would take 5 more minutes to explain it. The point being, I had missed the Easter party, like our Easter celebration. I had missed Easter. Well, fortunately, in my faith tradition, Easter is a season, not just a day. And after that Easter Sunday, I rose again. And I even went on to enjoy chocolate and sausage. And ever since then, I've learned not to be so zealous in my Lenten penances. I've realized, I've accepted I am weak. And as my spiritual director likes to remind me, we already have a savior, and it's not me. That's hilarious.
Well, I have never laughed so much. As an adult. And I don't have any kids. I don't have any grandkids. Nobody's at my house. So I'm taking to the point now, I'm not even fixing a holiday dinner. Because I don't have to. But I still have to fight the urge to go to the store and buy a chocolate Easter bunny every Easter. Because the first thing I'm going to do is eat the ears. And if you're lucky enough, you'll find one of the solid. Chocolate. Anyway, I've got another teller on the way. I'm trying to make these pauses so that our judges and our scorers are not rushed. Because they were laughing as much as we were. But our next teller is Samantha Powers.
So originally, I was not going to tell tonight because I did not think I had a chocolate story.
However, recently, my family and I went to Disney World, so this one is fresh in my memory. For those who don't know me or have never heard me tell a story before, my mom passed away when I was very young. And I realize it's a very morbid way to start a story about chocolate. It gets better, I promise. So, obviously, the memories I have of my mother, I cherish dearly, and there's not very many of them, as she passed when I was about 6. However, from the ages of 4, 5, and 6, I was very fortunate enough to go with my mother down to Orlando to watch my sister perform in the national dance competition in high school. Pretty cool gig when you're in high school and you're 6. The one thing about it, though, was that although he always claimed to be jealous on missing out and said he wishes he could have tagged along with, my dad never came along with because he had to work. I don't think he actually wanted to come along. But so the 3rd year we had gone, my dad said, because I seem to miss out on so much, I want to make sure I get you this very state-of-the-art 1996 video camera. One of those big VHS, you slide right in, video camera. And he's like, I don't want to miss a single thing of you and Samantha's trip to Disney World. For those who have not been to Disney World, there's something about a $10 snack that just tastes better when it's in the shape of a Mickey. I can tell you from just 2 weeks ago, that rule still applies. As a kid, my favorite one was a chocolate vanilla ice cream bar, a Mickey ice cream bar in the shape of a Mickey head, and I've become very familiar with it. So as the day went on, my mom and I made our way around the park, just the 2 of us, and of course she had this ginormous video camera on her shoulder as she's trying to lug around a 6-year-old around the parks. And I kept begging her for this ice cream stand, or this ice cream bar. She said, finally, okay, fine, I'll get you the ice cream bar. We need a little break. I need to put this video camera down, or at least figure out how to use it. And I need a second. And so she gets me the ice cream bar, and just as this is happening, a parade is going by, which, we struck Disney gold. I have an ice cream bar in the shape of Mickey, and there's a parade that we didn't have to wait an hour for. So we're just in the perfect spot, and it's kind of like a circular road. And I remember vividly taking a giant bite into this ice cream bar and looking down at my shoe and my hands and just seeing chocolate melting. And for some reason, I was not a meat child. I despised baths at all costs. But for some reason, in that moment, I was like, I'm too neat for this. This is way too messy for me, and I need to do something about it. And so in my 6-year-old brain, I see a garbage can across the way, and I take off for it to go throw away this ice cream treat that has now just disappointed me beyond belief. Well, the next thing I know, and again, this is a very vivid memory for me, my mother is like huffing and puffing, and she's hovering over me, and she's going, oh my baby, oh, like, you cannot do that to me. There's way too many people. You scared me. I'm so glad you're okay. Never do that to mommy again. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But the greatest part about this is my dad didn't miss a single part of that trip. Meaning, for a solid 5 minutes and 20 seconds, he caught my mom's probably least fondest moment of motherhood, where she thought she lost me at Disney World, and all you can do is hear her panic and see her feet running and trying to find me until she finally does. So, fortunately for us, we have that on tape, and that's something I'll never forget.
Okay, did you have a Mickey when you were down there?
Okay.
Oh, so is it $30 now? Wow. Okay. Now I know there's some people who didn't sign up. Do you have a chocolate story you want to tell? Don't be trying to hide behind people. I can see. Anybody got a chocolate story they want to tell? Someone, what about that back table back there? I know you got a chocolate story.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yay! I have a dog. I have no children. I have this dog, and she is my life. I built my life around her. She gets all of my attention. She's very well behaved. What kind of dog is she? Well, I have made up a portmanteau to remember. I always wondered what kind of dog she was, and I didn't know, and I wanted the DNA test. And because, again, I'm a mother, mothering is about sacrifice, I decided to get the DNA test for my birthday for my dog. I asked my sisters, could you get the DNA test for the dog's DNA test? And they did. And I discovered for $100, she is a Chow Collie Dachshund. Chow Collie Dachshund. And right here it is. And she's perfect. She might be a little fat because as an unwed teenage dog mom, sometimes I am not home and I have to let her know that I still love her, even though I have not been present all day. So I will give her some extra treats. And because she gets all of my attention, she is very well behaved. I mean, she just does everything I tell her. And sometimes I take her to places that she's not invited because I don't want to leave her at home. And one time I took her to a family party and they're like, oh, you brought the dog. And I was like, well, I didn't want to leave her at home. I mean, she would be lonely. And they're like, you're like in your 40s. What are you doing? I mean, I'm not like a child. I just love my dog. So she was at this party and she was a hit. Everyone was feeding her a lot of things. And every time I would look, she'd be, someone was petting her and feeding her scraps. And I was like, ooh, she might get an upset tummy. But she was having a good time. Don't you love it when you bring someone to a party and you don't have to babysit them all night? You can just let them be and they make you friends, and they eat and drink and just have a good time. And we caught up at the end of the night and I took her home. And then I went to work the next day. And then when I came home, oh my goodness, she did have an upset tummy. And she had made the most terrible mess. It would look like I know everyone's done eating. So it looked like it was out of both ends. It was terrible. And because, she is my daughter, I could see the shame in her face. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, by the way, her name is Matt Damon. Because I wanted to name her after a celebrity and I named her on Oscar night. And I couldn't determine which female actress she looked like. And I thought she maybe looked like Vera Farmiga, who was up for an Oscar for Up in the Air that year. But when I was really looking at her little puppy face, she really looks like Matt Damon. So she doesn't have any gender identity issues. She's just Matt Damon. Okay, yeah, she talks. And now back to the shame day, where now I have to step over this mess. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? Sorry. And I was like, I'm a terrible mother. I shouldn't have taken you to that party where all those irresponsible people were feeding you whatever you wanted. And I just apologized profusely to her. And she was like, it's okay. Can I go outside now? Yes. And she went outside and she was having, just more little tummy aches, I could tell. And then I, got her everything she needed. And I just nursed her back to health, just apologizing. And then I went upstairs into my room and I saw that I had a bag upstairs that I had laid on the floor that had some chocolate in it that I had forgotten was in that bag. And she had gotten into it while I was at work. So it had nothing to do with me being a terrible mother taking her out to a party. It was her misbehaving and getting into that bag and eating an entire box of chocolate. So then I was very angry and I took back my apology. We have since gotten over it and we are okay. Thank you. Matt Damon. Poor Matt Damon. My dog. I had my brother bring his dog to my house. His name is Peter Guy. And say, go to your auntie. And I keep telling him there's no dogs allowed in the house. And he keeps bringing the dog and he keeps getting upset, and I'm upset that he bought the dog. At any rate, I was at a party and the artist had a song, and I bought the CD for this one song. And the song was "The Dog Was Here First." Is there anybody else who wants to tell a chocolate story? Well, you know, how we have these little slips we want you to complete. You're not yet. Because we want to have a drawing. And the drawing, the yellow slips, the drawing will win complimentary tickets to one of our upcoming events. So you do want to complete that. And we're going to take our time doing that because I want to remind you of all those announcements I've made earlier. Like coming to the Indiana Landmark Center on March 3rd and on March 21st. March 3rd, I'll be telling a story about the Bottle Works. And on March 21st, there'll be conversations in Indiana African American history and culture, recovering the history of Norwood. Now, on March 16th, I'm telling you one more time, you do want to hear Charlotte Lake Austin tell the story of the 6th Triple A. The story about the only African American women's battalion to serve in Europe during World War II. And on March 20th at 7 p.m. at the Fountain Square Brew Company, 1301 Park Avenue. The theme is what happened to my microphone? Because I keep talking both times. At any rate, you should have got one more soul who's got a chocolate story out there to tell. All right. You're going to regret this, like. All right. Got another tell.
So I didn't fill out a slip. So my name is Chris Snyder. This is a part story, part suggestion for recipe. So lucky enough, my wife and 2 kids went to Costa Rica in 2019. So we got to Costa Rica and decided to go to this very small town off the coast, was supposed to be, you know, the best snorkeling and second best snorkeling in the world. So we land, we get some lunch, and then we drive for 4 hours on this road that was under construction for the entire 4 hours. It was all bumpy and rocky and everything. It was a mess. So we finally get to this little village, cute little village. They have a forest reserve there. So then we kept up with this guy who's a kind of a guide. Well, these guides, for $40, they'll take you all day. He comes with a spotting scope and a tripod. So we go through this forest and he shows us all the stuff that we would have missed. I mean, there's snakes that are as green as the trees. And he's like, oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. So showed us iguanas, showed us these spiders, told us about the trees. It was fantastic. So we hook up with this guy and we're like, hey, what else is there to do? And he goes, what do you want to do? And we're like, he's like, you want to make some chocolate? And we're like, oh yeah. So the next day, or a couple days later, he takes us, we get in the car, we drive half an hour, we go up in the mountains, and there's just like it's this little shack in the middle of nowhere up the mountain. Well, there's cocoa trees all over the place, and so there's big cocoa beans on all these trees. And so then they have this little hut, they have a big bonfire in the middle, and so then, of course, we get to grind our own beans on the rock, right? So we're grinding the beans on the rock. We heat them up over the fire. We grind them on the rock, and then we pick them up. And so then we're sitting there. We have, you know, our cocoa powder. And so then he reaches in his bag and he pulls out these little cans of condensed milk. So he takes some of our chocolate, puts it in a little cup, puts some condensed milk in it, a little bit of water, stirs it up, and it was freaking crazy, amazing hot chocolate. I mean, it was better than anything I've ever had. So, super cool experience. We got to go through the forest there, and they had a poison frog area that had like 15 different frogs in it, and they explained about all the frogs. Fantastic. So after we went through this whole thing, and we started making the chocolate, I'm like, I want the cocoa powder. So we get these 3 baseball-sized balls of cocoa powder, and quite a bit. So we take it home, and so then it goes into our spice cabinet, and it sits there, and it sits there, and it sits there. 4 years later, my wife's like, "Hey, this has been up there for so long. I'm sure it's bad. Let's throw it away." And I'm like, "Not on your life, right?" So I'm like, "Just leave it there. I'll make something out of it." So I kind of like to cook, and so of course I get a free day. Nobody's around, and so then I take this cocoa powder, double boil it, and so I read recipes. Well, you can sweeten your chocolate with sugar, but you can also sweeten it with honey. So you put it in there, melt it down, and I just kept pouring honey in it, tasting, more honey, tasting, more honey, tasting, till it got like crazy sweet, right? So then I had this giant pot. it made like a quart and a half of chocolate, and it's pretty thick. So then I get strawberries, I get oranges, I get bananas. Valentine's Day is coming. So skewer everything with a toothpick. Can't dip it in there because it's a little bit too thin, so you have to wait for it to cool off. And then I poured it over there and like looped it over the strawberries and everything to coat it, because it would just kind of roll off. So after I covered all my fruit, I still had half a pot left. And so then I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. So I just poured it out, put parchment paper down, and I just poured it out into like these flying great big strips. So then, of course, Valentine's Day, yay, we get the fruit, it's all good. Then, of course, we have to break up this chocolate, and it's the freaking best dark chocolate you've ever had in your life. And so then we put it in the refrigerator, and it took us we had to pace ourselves on because it was so rich. So we had it in the fridge for like 3 weeks, just taking just small amounts every night, watching TV. Oh, he wants some dessert? You bet. So next time you make yourself some milk chocolate, try sweetening it with honey. It's amazing. So.
I haven't had any chocolate today yet. But you can rest assured that I'm going to have some before I go home. I figure I'll stop by me a lot. Get me a couple candy bars. But I'm going to try that honey trick. Let me remind you that our next thing is Flash. Flash. There are a lot of things to splash. There's a lot of things to splash. All right? Just telling you right now. We're collecting the yellow slips because we are going to have a drawing. You might win complimentary tickets to our next show.
So there's not food at Fountain Square, just FYI.
Yeah. There is no food at the Fountain Square Brew.
Right?
Oh no. Check Facebook for our announcements. See, I didn't eat all day because I knew I was coming here. And I knew I was going to get me some good food. And I just had a small bowl of white chicken chili. It was really good. I'm trying to be happy. That's why there's no chocolate or potato chips in my house. We're collecting in our glass bowl. Now, We did not. I'd like to thank the judges, and I'd like to thank the scorekeepers and our timekeepers, and I'd like to thank you for coming. But I'd like to announce our winners. Our third place winner is Tracy Wynn. And we will take your pictures at the end. Our second place winner is Chad Black. Congratulations. And we got a tie for first place. We didn't have to tear the chicken there. Jen, Clean, and Noel Bewley. That's the first. All right, I'm going to take your pictures when you come up here. But right now, I'm going to reach into the fish bowl. I'm going to dig down deep, mix them all up. It's folded. There's a Cassie Smith. Girl, you got tickets. You got tickets.